Admiral Quan Tae-min stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable. His hands gripped the metal rail as he watched the stars change around them. The ship shook as it came out of hyperspace. Red lights flashed on the control panels. Warning sounds filled the air. "We made it," said Captain Lee Sora from her station. She was young but had fought in many battles. Her voice was steady, but Tae-min could hear the worry in it. The Indomitable was old and damaged. Black marks covered its hull from countless fights. The ship had been running for 15 years. Now it carried the last 847 humans from their destroyed colonies. They were all that remained of the human colonial fleet. "Show me the system," Tae-min ordered. The main screen lit up. Vega Tertia spread before them. 3 planets orbited a bright yellow star. Space stations floated between them like metal insects. Mining ships moved slowly between the asteroids. This was the heart of hegemony space. Commander Park Jin-woo looked up from his engineering station. "Admiral, our engines are holding together, but barely. We cannot run much longer." Tae-min nodded. He knew their ship was dying. But 50,000 humans were trapped on the 3rd planet below. They had been slaves in the mines for 10 years. Today, that would end. "Incoming transmission," said Lieutenant Han Mi-kyung. She was the youngest on the bridge, only 26 years old. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls. The screen changed. A large reptilian face appeared. Its yellow eyes were cold and angry. This was Fleet Commander Vorthak of the Saurian race. The Saurians were the strongest species in the hegemony. "Human vessel," Vorthak said in a deep voice. "You will surrender now or be destroyed. Your kind has no place in this system." Tae-min stepped forward. He thought of his wife and children killed when the hegemony attacked his homeworld. He thought of all the humans who had died fighting this war. His voice was calm when he spoke. "We are here to collect our people. Stand aside." Vorthak's eyes grew wider. "You dare give orders to me? You are one ship against our entire fleet." "Then move your fleet," Tae-min said. "We are coming through." The alien's face disappeared from the screen. Around them, space began to fill with enemy ships. 12 patrol vessels moved to block their path. Each one was twice the size of a human fighter. "They are powering weapons," Lee Sora reported. "Energy readings are very high." "Raise our kinetic barriers," Tae-min ordered. "All weapons ready." The Indomitable's experimental shields powered up. The barriers used spinning metal particles to stop energy weapons. It was new human technology, built from desperation and need. "Admiral," Park Jin-woo called out, "the barriers are at full power, but they will not last long." "They do not need to last long," Tae-min replied. The first enemy ship fired. Bright, blue energy beams shot across space. They hit the Indomitable's barriers and scattered like rain on glass. The ship shook but kept moving forward. "Their weapons are not working," Han Mi-kyung said with surprise. "Fire," Tae-min ordered. The Indomitable's railguns spoke. These weapons used magnetic fields to throw metal slugs at incredible speed. The slugs moved so fast they were almost invisible. They hit the enemy ships like hammers. The first patrol vessel exploded in a ball of fire. The second ship lost its front section and spun away dead in space. The third ship tried to turn, but another railgun shot tore through its engine. "Impossible," came Vorthak's voice over the radio. "No single ship can do this." But the Indomitable kept moving. It flew straight through the enemy formation. More patrol ships tried to stop it. The human ship's barriers held against their energy weapons while its railguns picked them apart one by one. Lee Sora watched her tactical display. "We have destroyed 8 enemy ships. 4 are retreating." "Good," Tae-min said. "Set course for the planet." The ship turned toward Vega Tertius Prime. Below on that world, human slaves worked in deep mines. They had been taken from their homes and forced to dig for rare metals. The hegemony used these metals to build their ships and weapons. "More ships coming," Han Mi-kyung reported. 20 vessels this time. They are much bigger." Tae-min looked at the screen. The new ships were destroyers and cruisers. Each one had enough firepower to destroy a small city. But the admiral did not change course. "Sir," Lee Sora said quietly, "we cannot fight that many ships. We are not here to fight them all," Taman replied. "We are here to get our people." The enemy fleet spread out to surround them. Their ships were beautiful and deadly. The Saurian vessels looked like flying serpents made of metal. The Kronak ships were blocky and covered with weapons. Ships from 2 other alien races joined them. "Human commander," Vorthak's voice came again. "You have seen our power. Surrender now and your death will be quick." Taman touched a control on his chair. His voice went out on all frequencies. Every ship in the system could hear him. "My name is Admiral Quan Taman of the Human Colonial Fleet. 15 years ago, you attacked our worlds without warning. You killed our families. You took our people as slaves. Today we take them back." He paused and looked around his bridge. His crew was ready to die for this mission. They all had lost everything to the hegemony. "We do not ask for mercy because we will show none. We do not ask for quarter because we will give none. We are humans, and we do not surrender." The enemy ships opened fire all at once, space filled with energy beams and missiles. The Indomitable's barriers flared as they stopped the incoming fire. But there was too much. Some shots got through. The ship shook hard. Sparks flew from control panels. The lights went out for a moment, before emergency power kicked in. "Hull damage on decks 7 and 12, Park Jin-woo reported. "But we are still flying." "Return fire," Taman ordered. The railguns fired again and again. Each shot found its target. Enemy ships exploded or broke apart. But for every ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. "We are outnumbered 50-1, Lee Sora said. "Then the odds are in our favor," Taman replied. "We have been outnumbered for 15 years. The battle moved closer to the planet. The Indomitable used its speed and the barriers to stay alive. It flew through asteroid fields, using the rocks as cover. When enemy ships followed, the railguns destroyed them. On the planet below, the human slaves saw the battle in the sky. For 10 years they had given up hope. Now a single ship was fighting, the entire hegemony fleet. Word spread through the mining camps like wildfire. "A human ship," they whispered to each other. "Our people have come for us." In the largest mining complex, a man named Choi Dong-ho looked up at the sky. He had been the colony leader when the hegemony attacked. For 10 years he had kept hope alive among the prisoners. Now that hope had wings and guns, back on the Indomitable, alarms were ringing. The ship had taken heavy damage, but it was still fighting, still moving toward the planet. "Admiral," Han Mi-kyung said, "I am picking up transmissions from the surface. The humans down there know we are here." Taman smiled for the first time in years. "Send a message to the planet. Tell our people to be ready. Tell them we are coming." Around them, more enemy ships arrived. The space near Vega Tertius was becoming crowded with warships. All of them wanted to destroy one human vessel. But the Indomitable would not be stopped. It had momentum now. Like a rock rolling down a mountain, nothing could stand in its way. The ship had become something more than metal and weapons. It had become an idea, and ideas, Taman knew, were the hardest things in the universe to kill. The space around Vega Tertius filled with warships. Admiral Quan Tai-min watched from his bridge as more enemy vessels jumped into the system. 200 ships now faced his single damaged warship. "All hegemony fleets are responding," Lieutenant Han Mi-kyung reported. "Ships from 4 different species are moving to stop us." Captain Lee Sora looked at her tactical screen. "Admiral, they have us surrounded. No matter which way we turn, we face enemy guns." Taman studied the display. The enemy had made a mistake. They thought like a traditional fleet. They were trying to trap him and destroy him in one big battle. But the Indomitable was not fighting a traditional war. "Set course directly for the planet," he ordered. "Full speed." "Sir," Lee Sora said, "that will take us through the center of their formation." "Exactly." The Indomitable turned and accelerated. Its damaged engines roared as they pushed the ship forward. The kinetic barriers sparked and flared around the hull like blue lightning. In the engine room, Chief Petty Officer Yoon Hyun-soo and his damage control teams worked frantically. Pipes had burst from the battle. Control circuits were melting. from overload, but they kept the ship running. "We need more power to the barriers," Yoon called to his men. "Take it from life support if you have to." His teams ran through the ship carrying spare parts and tools. They welded broken plates and rerouted damaged systems. Every time an enemy shot got through the barriers, they fixed the damage and kept going. The enemy fleet opened fire as the Indomitable charged toward them. Hundreds of energy beams lit up space. The human ship flew straight into the storm of weapons fire. But something strange happened. The Indomitable did not try to dodge. Instead, it used the enemy's own weapons against them. When energy beams missed the human ship, they hit other enemy vessels. In the confusion of battle, alien ships began shooting each other. "They are not used to fighting something that will not run," Lee Sora observed. The railguns fired continuously. Now, each shot was perfectly aimed. Enemy ships exploded one after another. The Indomitable flew through the wreckage like a knife cutting through paper. On the planet below, Dr. Kim Nori received the first message from space. She was the human doctor in the main mining camp. For 10 years, she had treated sick and injured slaves. Now she had a new job. "This is Dr. Kim," she said into her hidden radio. "We hear you up there." "Doctor," came the reply from the ship. "We need you to coordinate with the other camps. When we get closer, we will need landing zones." Kim smiled. "We have been preparing for this day for 10 years. Tell Admiral Kwan we are ready." She switched to another frequency. This one connected her to Choi Dong-ho in the Eastern Mining Complex. The former colony leader had never stopped organizing the human prisoners. "Dong-ho," she said. "The ship is real. They are coming for us." "I know," Choi replied. "The guards are getting nervous. Some of them are already running away." In her workshop, engineer Lim Soo-jin heard the news and smiled. For years, she had been secretly damaging mining equipment. She made the machines break down at just the right times. She slowed production and made the alien overseers angry, but she had bigger plans. The mining complex sat on top of a massive energy source. The aliens used it to power their operations, but Soo-jin had been studying the system. She knew how to turn the power plant into a bomb. Back in space, the Indomitable pushed deeper into the enemy formation. The ship was taking heavy damage now. Hull plates flew off into space. Internal explosions rocked the vessel, but it kept moving forward. "Report," Tae-min called out. Commander Park Jin-woo wiped blood from his forehead. "Engines at 60%. Weapon systems holding, but Admiral, we cannot take much more of this." "How long until we reach orbital range?" 20 minutes at current speed." Tae-min nodded. 20 minutes. They just had to last 20 more minutes. The enemy was getting desperate. Their neat formations broke apart as ships tried to get better firing angles. Some vessels collided with each other in the confusion. The disciplined hegemony fleet was becoming an angry mob. "Sir," Han Mi-kyung said, "I am picking up something strange. The enemy ships are not all fighting together anymore." Tae-min looked at her. "Explain." "The different species are arguing with each other. The Saurians want to ram us, the Kronak want to use bigger weapons. The other two species are suggesting we should be captured, not destroyed." This was interesting news. The hegemony was not as united as it appeared. Cracks were showing in their alliance. "Send a message on all frequencies," Tae-min ordered. "Make sure every ship can hear it." "Ready, sir." "Soldiers of the hegemony," Tae-min began. "Look around you. Your leaders told you we would be easy to defeat. They said humans were weak. But we are still here, and many of your ships are not." He paused as another enemy cruiser exploded from a railgun hit. "Your leaders brought you here to destroy one damaged ship, but that ship is winning. Ask yourself why they fear us so much. Ask yourself what else they have lied about." Some enemy ships actually slowed their fire. The message was having an effect. But Fleet Commander Vorthak was not giving up. His voice came over the radio, full of rage. "All ships ignore the human lies. Destroy them now before they reach the planet." The largest enemy ships moved forward. These were the capital vessels, each one the size of a small city. Their main guns could destroy entire mountains. "Here they come," Lee Sora said. The capital. Ships opened fire. Their weapons were so powerful that space itself seemed to bend around the energy beams. When they hit the Indomitable's barriers, the ship shook like a toy in a storm. "Barriers failing," Park Jin-woo shouted over the noise. "We cannot stop shots that big." But Taemin was already moving. "Emergency Maneuver 7, he ordered. Indomitable suddenly changed course. Instead of flying toward the planet, it dove toward one of the capital ships. The massive alien vessel tried to turn, but it was too slow. The human ship flew underneath the enemy vessel so close that their hulls almost touched. When the other capital ships fired, their shots hit their own ally instead of the Indomitable. The friendly fire caused enormous damage. The alien ship lost half its weapons and began to drift. The Indomitable had turned the enemy's size against them. "Brilliant," Lee Sora whispered. But the victory cost them. The ship was now very close to several enemy vessels. Energy beams hit them from all sides. The barriers finally failed completely. Direct hits tore through the hull. Atmosphere rushed out into space. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut to stop the bleeding air. More than 50 crew members were killed in seconds. Hull breaches on 15 decks. Yoon Hyun-soo reported. "We are venting air and fuel." "Seal what you can," Taemin ordered. "Ignore the rest." The ship limped forward. It was bleeding light and atmosphere like a wounded animal. But the planet was getting closer. On Vega Tertius Prime, the human slaves watched the battle. They could see explosions in the sky as ships died. But one ship kept moving. One ship would not stop. "Get ready," Choi Dong-ho told his people. "Our ride is almost here." The Indomitable finally reached orbital range. Its railguns turned toward the planet's surface. But instead of firing at the mining camps, they targeted the guard towers and weapon stations around them. "Precision strikes only," Taemin ordered. "Do not hit areas with human prisoners." The railguns spoke with surgical accuracy. Guard towers exploded. Weapon depots erupted in flames. The alien overseers ran for their lives as their defenses crumbled. But the battle in space was not over. More enemy ships were arriving from other systems. The hegemony was throwing everything they had at one human vessel. "Admiral," Han Mi-kyung said, "I am detecting something else. Ships jumping in at the edge of the system." Taemin looked at the display. 3 new contacts appeared on the screen. For a moment, his heart sank. More enemy reinforcements. Then the identification signals came through. His eyes widened. "Sir," Han Mi-kyung said with excitement, "those are human ships." The vessels were the Defiant, the Liberation, and the Phoenix. Ships that had been reported destroyed years ago. But they were alive. They had been hiding, waiting for this moment. "This is Captain Chen of the Defiant," came a voice over the radio. "Admiral Kwan, we received your transmission. We are here to help." Taemin felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. "Welcome to the party," he replied. The 3 ships moved to join the Indomitable. Now it was 4 human vessels against the entire hegemony fleet. The odds were still impossible, but somehow they felt better. The real fight was about to begin. The 4 human ships moved into formation around Vega Tertius Prime. Admiral Kwan Taemin watched as his fellow captains appeared on his communication screen. They looked older and tired, but their eyes burned with the same fire that drove him. "HFY, it's good to see you alive," Captain Chen of the Defiant said. She was a small woman with gray hair and scars on her face. "We thought we were the only ones left." "How many survivors do you have?" Taemin asked. 230 on the Defiant," Chen replied. "The Liberation has 150. The Phoenix carries 98. We are all that remain of the outer colonies." Captain Lee Sora looked at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was regrouping after the surprise of more human ships. But they still had overwhelming numbers. "Sir," she said quietly, "even with 4 ships, we are still outnumbered 50 to 1. "Then the odds have improved," Taemin replied. The Indomitable took position directly over the largest mining complex. Its damaged hull sparked with electricity as systems struggled to keep working, but the ship's guns remained steady, pointed at the guard towers below. On the planet's surface, the human uprising had already begun. Choi Dong-ho led a group of miners as they stormed the main security station. The alien guards were confused and frightened. They had never faced organized resistance before. "Take their weapons," Choi shouted to his people. "But remember, we need them alive to operate the transport systems." The miners had spent 10 years learning every detail of the complex. They knew which passages led where. They knew which systems controlled what. Now they used that knowledge like a weapon. In the power plant, engineer Lim Soo-jin worked at a control panel. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she began her most dangerous task. She was turning the facility's main reactor into a massive bomb. "How long do we have?" asked one of the miners helping her. 6 hours, Soo-jin replied. "After that, this whole complex will be a crater. We need to get everyone out before then." Dr. Kim Nari coordinated the evacuation from her medical station. She had secret radios connecting her to every human group on the planet. Her calm voice guided the uprising. "Team 7, move to landing zone 3, she said into her microphone. "Team 12, secure the eastern transport hub. Remember, stay away from the power plant area." In space above them, the real battle was beginning. Fleet Commander Vorthak had organized his forces into 3 attack groups. Each group had enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "Human vessels," Vorthak's voice came over the radio. "You have made your point. But this ends now. Surrender, and we will allow you to leave with your people." Timon smiled coldly. "We are not leaving without everyone. All 50,000 humans on that planet are coming with us." "Impossible," Vorthak replied. "We do not have enough transport ships." "Then you should have thought of that before you made them slaves." The first attack group moved forward. 20 heavy cruisers opened fire at long range. Their energy beams reached across space like the fingers of angry gods. But the human ships did not fight like a traditional fleet. Instead, they split up and used the planet's gravity and magnetic field to their advantage. The Indomitable dove toward the planet's north pole, where the magnetic field was strongest. When the enemy energy beams hit the magnetic field, they scattered and twisted. Some shots missed completely. Others were bent back toward the attacking ships. "Clever," Captain Chen said over the radio. Using the planet as a shield, the Liberation and Phoenix moved to opposite sides of the planet. Their railguns fired across the curve of the world, hitting enemy ships that could not see them coming. The Defiant stayed with the Indomitable, adding its firepower to the larger ship's guns. Together they destroyed 6 enemy cruisers in the first exchange. But the aliens were learning. The second attack group approached from a different angle, staying away from the planet's magnetic field. These ships were older, but carried more armor. Sergeant Anjeho led a boarding party from the Indomitable to capture one of the damaged enemy vessels. His team of 20 Marines moved through space in armored suits using small thrusters to reach the alien ship. "Remember," he told his people as they approached the enemy hull, "we need their computers intact. Try not to blow everything up." The Marines cut through the alien ship's hull with plasma torches. They moved through corridors filled with strange air and stranger technology. The reptilian crew fought back, but they were not prepared for human tactics. Humans had learned to fight dirty during 15 years of losing wars. They used explosives in tight spaces. They turned the enemy's own systems against them. They fought with a desperation that the comfortable hegemony soldiers could not match. "Ship secured," An reported back to the Admiral. "We have their navigation computer and communication logs." The captured data revealed something important. The hegemony was not as strong as it appeared. Many of their ships were old and poorly maintained. Some crews were unwilling to fight, forced into service from conquered worlds. More importantly, the data showed locations of other human slave camps throughout hegemony space. 50,000 prisoners on this world were just the beginning. Lieutenant Han Mi-kyung studied the intelligence reports. "Admiral," she said, "there are humans on 12 different worlds. Over 500,000 people in total." Taimin felt the weight of that knowledge. 500,000 humans waiting for rescue. The mission had just gotten much bigger. "Send the data to all human ships," he ordered. "Make sure they know what we are really fighting for." The battle continued to rage around the planet. Enemy ships tried to break through the human defense, but each attack was turned back. The 4 human vessels moved like dancers, never staying in one place long enough to be trapped. Ensign Quan Yu-jin piloted the Indomitable's last fighter craft through the chaos. Her small ship was fast and hard to hit. She flew between the massive enemy vessels, targeting their weapon systems with precise shots. "Small target coming through," she called over the radio as she dove between 2 enemy cruisers. Her fighter's guns stitched holes along their hulls. The enemy tried to swat her like an annoying insect, but their big guns could not track something so small and fast. She destroyed 6 weapon turrets before returning to her ship for more ammunition. On the planet below, the human uprising was succeeding beyond all expectations. The alien guards had never faced organized resistance. They were used to frightened slaves who obeyed orders, but these humans had been planning their revolt for years. They moved with military precision, capturing key facilities and cutting off enemy communications. "The Eastern Complex is secure," Choi Dong-ho reported to Dr. Kim. "We have 15,000 people ready for transport." "Western Complex reports 12,000 ready," came another voice. "Central Complex has 18,000 plus the children," said a third. The numbers were adding up, but they still faced a huge problem. How could they get 50,000 people off the planet and past the enemy fleet? That was when Engineer Lim Soo-jin revealed her master plan. "The power plant explosion will not just destroy this complex," she explained to Dr. Kim over their private radio channel. "It will create an electromagnetic pulse that will disable every ship within 5,000 kilometers. Kim understood immediately. "Including the human ships." "The human ships have hardened systems," Soo-jin replied. "They will recover in a few minutes. But the alien vessels will be dead for hours." It was a desperate plan, but it might work. They would have a small window of time when the enemy fleet would be helpless. "How do we get everyone off the planet in just a few minutes?" Kim asked. "We don't," Soo-jin said sadly. "Only the people near the transport sites will make it. The rest will have to wait for the next rescue mission." Dr. Kim closed her eyes. It was an impossible choice. Save some people now or risk losing everyone. Up in space, Admiral Taemin was facing his own impossible choice. The enemy had brought in reinforcements from 3 neighboring systems. Nearly 400 ships now surrounded the planet. "Sir," Captain Lee Sora said quietly, "we cannot fight that many ships. Even with the planet's help, we will be overwhelmed." Taemin looked at the tactical display. She was right. They had won every battle so far through surprise and superior tactics. But numbers would eventually win out, unless they changed the rules completely. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Human and alien." Han Mi-kyung nodded. "Channel open, sir." "This is Admiral Kwon Tae-min," he began. "I want every being in this system to listen carefully. In 1 hour, we are going to do something that has never been done before." He paused, making sure he had everyone's attention. "We are going to prove that freedom is more powerful than slavery. That hope is stronger than fear. That one idea can change the universe." The communication channel was completely silent. Even the enemy ships had stopped shooting to listen. "In 1 hour, you will see why humans never surrender." Taemin cut the channel and turned to his crew. They looked at him with a mixture of fear and excitement. "What are your orders, sir?" Lee So-ra asked. "We are going to save everyone," he replied. "All 50,000. And we are going to do it in a way that will inspire every oppressed being in the galaxy." The final phase of the battle was about to begin. The hour that Admiral Kwon Tae-min had promised was almost over. Around Vega Tertius Prime, nearly 400 enemy ships waited for the humans to make their move. The tension in space was so thick it could be cut with a knife. On the planet, below, Engineer Lim Soo-jin put her hand on the final control switch. The power plant hummed with dangerous energy. In 30 minutes it would explode with the force of a small star. "All teams, this is Dr. Kim," came the voice over the radio. "Begin final evacuation procedures. Anyone not at a transport site in 25 minutes will be left behind." The human prisoners moved quickly through the mining complexes. Families carried their few possessions. Children held tightly to their parents' hands. Everyone knew this was their only chance at freedom. Choi Dong-ho stood at the main transport hub, watching thousands of people file past. His heart was heavy. They could only save 30,000 people in the first wave. 20,000 would have to wait for a second rescue that might never come. The ships cannot carry everyone, he said quietly to Dr. Kim over their radio link. I know, she replied. We save who we can. The rest we come back for later. In space, Captain Lee Sora monitored the enemy fleet movements. The aliens were positioning themselves for a final assault. They had lost patience with the small human force. Admiral, she reported, the enemy is preparing to attack from all sides at once. They are not taking any more chances. Taemin nodded. He expected this. The aliens had finally realized that fighting fair would not work against humans. Now they would use overwhelming force. Signal the other human ships, he ordered. Begin Phase 1. The Liberation and Phoenix moved away from the planet, drawing enemy ships with them. Their job was to split the alien fleet and create confusion. The Defiant remained close to the Indomitable, adding its firepower to the defense of the planet. Captain Chen's weathered face appeared on the communication screen. We are ready, she said simply. Lieutenant Han Mi-kyung worked frantically at her station. She had discovered something amazing in the captured alien data. The enemy fleet was not united. 2 of the 4 alien races were having serious doubts about this war. Sir, she said excitedly, I have been monitoring internal hegemony communications. The Cathara and Luminari species are arguing with the Saurians and Kronak about attacking civilians. This was the break Taemin had been hoping for. The hegemony was starting to crack under pressure. Can you establish a direct communication link with the Cathara ships? He asked. I think so, sir. Their language is mathematical in nature. I have been studying their communication patterns. Do it. While Han worked on her translation, the battle resumed. The enemy fleet divided into attack groups, just as Taemin had predicted. Each group had enough firepower to destroy a city. But the humans were ready. Sergeant An Jae-ho had placed boarding teams on several captured alien vessels. When the attack began, these ships suddenly turned their guns on their own allies. Surprise, An said over the radio as his captured cruiser opened fire on a Saurian destroyer. The enemy fleet fell into chaos. Ships that should have been working together were shooting at each other. The careful alien battle plans collapsed in minutes. Chief Petty Officer Yoon Hyun-soo and his damage control teams worked miracles keeping the human ships functional. Every time an enemy shot got through their defenses, his people repaired the damage and kept fighting. Hull breach on Deck 9, one of his men reported. Seal it and move on, Yoon replied. We do not have time for perfect repairs. The Indomitable was held together by determination and emergency patches. Its hull was scarred and blackened. But its guns still worked, and that was all that mattered. On the planet, the evacuation continued under fire. Enemy ground forces tried to stop the transport ships, but the human uprising had captured most of their weapons. Transport 7 is loaded, came a report over Dr. Kim's radio. 4,000 people ready for pickup. Transport 12 reports a problem, came another voice. Enemy fighters are attacking the landing zone. That was when Ensign Kwan Yu-jin proved why humans made the best pilots in the galaxy. Her fighter dove toward the planet's surface, chasing the enemy aircraft through the atmosphere. Leave our people alone, she said grimly as her guns found their targets. The enemy fighters were faster and better armed, but they were not desperate. Yu-jin was fighting for the lives of thousands of innocent people. Her determination made the difference. She shot down 3 enemy fighters before her own craft was hit. The fighter spun toward the ground, trailing smoke and fire. Yu-jin, eject, Captain Lee called over the radio. Negative, came the reply. I can still fly this thing. The damaged fighter slammed into the ground near the transport site. But Yu-jin had cleared the skies. The transport ships could take off safely. She crawled out of the wreckage and gave a thumbs up to the people watching. They cheered and helped her to the nearest transport ship. In space, Han Mi-kyung finally established contact with the Kithara fleet. The insect-like aliens communicated through mathematical equations and musical tones. "Admiral," she said, "I am talking to their fleet commander. They are very unhappy about attacking civilians." "Tell them we offer an alternative," Taemin replied. The conversation that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. A human admiral and an alien fleet commander discussed philosophy while the battle raged around them. The Cathara were a logical species. They had joined the hegemony for protection, not conquest. The idea of enslaving other races troubled their mathematical minds. "Your behavior does not match our calculations," the alien commander said through Han's translation. "Humans should have surrendered long ago." "We do not follow anyone's calculations," Taemin replied. "We follow our hearts." That concept was difficult for the logical aliens to understand, but they were intrigued by it. The conversation was interrupted. When Fleet Commander Vorthak realized what was happening, his angry voice came over all frequencies. "All ships, destroy the human vessels immediately. Anyone who hesitates will be considered a traitor." That threat was a mistake. The Cathara and Luminari had been having doubts about their alliance with the aggressive Saurians and Kronak. Being called potential traitors pushed them over the edge. "We withdraw from this battle," the Cathara commander announced. "This is not what we agreed to fight for." 60 alien ships suddenly stopped shooting at the humans. Some of them even turned their weapons on the Saurian vessels that threatened them. The hegemony was falling apart. But Vorthak was not finished. In desperation, he ordered his remaining ships to target the human civilians on the planet's surface. "If we cannot defeat their military, we will destroy what they came to save," he snarled. Enemy ships began moving into position to bombard the mining complexes. Their weapons were powerful enough to kill everyone on the planet's surface. That was when engineer Lim Soo-jin made her final choice. The power plant was not supposed to explode for another 10 minutes. But if she triggered it now, the electromagnetic pulse would disable the ships threatening the civilians. "Dr. Kim," she said over the radio, "tell everyone I am sorry. The timing has to change." "Soo-jin, no," Kim replied. "There are still people in the transport zone. Better some live than all die," Soo-jin said quietly. She pressed the final switch. The power plant exploded with the force of a small sun. The blast was visible from space as a brilliant flash of light. The electromagnetic pulse spread out in all directions. Every unshielded electronic device within 5,000 kilometers went dead. Most of the alien ships lost power and began drifting helplessly. The human ships, with their hardened military systems, recovered in less than 2 minutes. But they faced a terrible choice. They could rescue the 30,000 people already at the transport sites, or they could wait and try to save more. "All transports, emergency pickup," Taemin ordered. "We take everyone we can and we leave now." The human ships dove toward the planet's surface. Their cargo bays opened to receive the transport shuttles carrying thousands of freed slaves. But as they loaded the people, more enemy ships arrived from outside the pulse range. The hegemony was sending everything they had to stop this rescue. "Sir," Captain Lee reported, "enemy reinforcements approaching. We have maybe 5 minutes before they arrive." Taemin looked at the tactical display. They had saved 30,000 people, but 20,000 were still trapped on the planet. The mission was only half complete. "Admiral," came a voice over the radio. It was Choi Dong-ho, speaking from the planet's surface. "You need to go. Take our people to safety." "We are not leaving anyone behind," Taemin replied. "You have to," Choi said firmly. "Save who you can. Come back for the rest later." It was the hardest decision Taemin had ever made. Leave 20,000 people behind or risk losing everyone. He was about to give the order to retreat when something unexpected happened. More ships appeared at the edge of the system, but these were not hegemony reinforcements. "Sir," Han Mi-kyung said with excitement, "those are human ships, dozens of them." The message they had broadcast earlier had reached other human survivors throughout the galaxy. Ships that had been hiding for years were coming out of the shadows. The cavalry had arrived. "This is Admiral Kim of the Resistance Fleet," came a voice over the radio. "Sorry we are late to the party." The space around Vega Tertius Prime had become a graveyard of ships. Broken hulls drifted between the planets like metal tombstones. But the battle was far from over. Admiral Quan Tae-min looked at his tactical display with new hope. 47 human ships now faced the remaining hegemony fleet. The odds were still against them, but they were no longer impossible. "Welcome to the fight," he said to Admiral Kim, commander of the newly arrived resistance fleet. "We have been waiting 15 years for this moment," Kim replied. "Our people are ready to die for freedom." On the planet below, 20,000 humans waited in the ruins of the mining complexes. The power plant explosion had destroyed much of the infrastructure, but Choi Dong-ho had organized the survivors into defendable groups. "Hold your positions," he told his people over their makeshift radios. "Our ships are coming back for us." Dr. Kim Nari worked frantically to treat the wounded from the explosion. Engineer Lim Soo-jin had not survived the blast, but her sacrifice had saved thousands of lives. The electromagnetic pulse had stopped the enemy bombardment just in time. In the space, the human fleet prepared for its final assault. But this would not be a traditional battle. They had learned something important during the long fight. "The enemy is not united," Lieutenant Han Mi-kyung reported to Admiral Tae-min. "The Kithara have officially withdrawn from the battle. Some Luminari ships are also refusing to fight." Captain Lee So-ra studied the enemy formations. "That leaves mainly Saurian and Kronak vessels, maybe 200 ships. Still long odds, but much better than before." Fleet Commander Vorthak's voice came over the radio, filled with rage and desperation. "All remaining ships, attack formation Delta. We end this now." But as the Saurian fleet moved forward, something unexpected happened. Several Kronak vessels suddenly changed course and began attacking their own allies. "What is happening?" Lee asked in confusion. Han Mi-kyung worked quickly at her station. "Sir, I am detecting internal communications. Some Kronak crews are mutinying. They are tired of following Saurian orders." The sight of one human ship refusing to surrender had started something that could not be stopped. Doubt had crept into the hegemony like a virus. Species that had been forced into alliance were remembering why they had fought in the first place. Admiral Tae-min seized the moment. "All ships, broadcast on all frequencies. I want every being in this system to hear this." He stood up from his command chair, his voice carrying across space to both human and alien vessels. "Soldiers of the hegemony," he began. "Look around you. Your empire is crumbling, not because of our weapons, but because of our ideas." The battle slowed as ships on both sides listened to his words. "We came here for 50,000 enslaved humans. We could have taken 30,000 and run away, but we did not. Do you know why?" He paused, letting the question sink in. "Because we believe that freedom is not something you take for yourself. It is something you share with others. Every being in this galaxy has the right to choose their own path." Some alien ships actually stopped shooting entirely. Their crews were listening to concepts they had never heard before. "Join us," Tae-min continued. "Not as conquered peoples, but as equals. Help us build something better than the hegemony." That was when the miracle happened. A Kronak heavy cruiser broke formation and moved toward the human fleet. "This is Captain Grotak of the vessel Thunderclaw," came a gravelly voice over the radio. "My people have been slaves to the Saurians for too long. We choose freedom." More Kronak ships followed. Then some Luminari vessels joined them. Even a EI-dar. Few Kithara ships returned to the battle, but this time fighting alongside the humans. Fleet Commander Vorthak watched his empire collapse in real time. "Traitors, all of you," he screamed. "We will destroy you all." But the Saurian fleet was now outnumbered 3-1. The alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries was falling apart. The final battle was brief, but decisive. The remaining, loyal hegemony ships fought with desperate fury, but they were overwhelmed by the combined human and alien fleet. Commander Park Jin-woo, working in the engine room of the Indomitable, finally succumbed to his injuries from the long battle, but his last act was to reroute power to the ship's weapons, giving them the firepower needed for the final push. "The commander is gone," Chief Petty Officer Yoon Hyun-soo reported with tears in his eyes. "But his engines are still running." The Indomitable led the charge against Vorthak's flagship. The massive Saurian dreadnought was 3 times the size of the human vessel, but it stood alone against an entire fleet. "This is for everyone who died fighting for freedom," Timon said as his ship's railguns fired their final shots. Vorthax's ship broke apart under the combined assault. The fleet commander's last transmission was a curse against all who had betrayed the hegemony. Then his voice was silenced forever. With their leader dead and their allies gone, the remaining Saurian ships surrendered. The battle for Vega Tertius was over, but the real work was just beginning. The human fleet turned its attention to the planet below. Every transport ship, human and alien alike, rushed to evacuate the remaining 20,000 prisoners. Choi Dong-ho was among the last to leave the planet's surface. He looked back at the mining complex that had been his prison for 10 years. Now it was just empty ruins. "It is over," Dr. Kim Nari said as they boarded the transport. "No," Choi replied with a smile. "It is just beginning." Over the following weeks, the news of the hegemony's defeat spread across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, enslaved populations rose up against their oppressors. The human example had shown them that resistance was possible. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking to each other. The rigid hierarchy of the hegemony was replaced by something new, a loose alliance of free worlds working together by choice. Admiral Tae-min found himself appointed as the first human representative to the new Galactic Council. It was a role he had never wanted, but he accepted it as his duty. Captain Lee Sora took command of the Indomitable. The old ship was repaired and upgraded, becoming the flagship of the new human defense fleet. Its mission was no longer war, but rescue and humanitarian aid. Lieutenant Han Mi-kyung became the head of the new Department of Interspecies Communication. Her ability to talk with alien races made her invaluable in the changing galaxy. Chief Petty Officer Yoon Hyun-soo trained a new generation of engineers, teaching them that determination was just as important as skill. Dr. Kim Nari established medical centers on dozens of worlds, treating victims of the old regime regardless of their species. Choi Dong-ho was elected as the first governor of the free Vega Tertius colony. The mining world became a symbol of liberation, welcoming refugees from across the galaxy. 5 years after the battle, the Indomitable returned to Vega Tertius for the annual Freedom Day celebration. The ship was now a museum, as well as a working vessel. Children of many different species played in its corridors while their parents remembered the day everything changed. Admiral Tae-min, now graying and tired, stood on the bridge where it all began. Through the windows he could see the planet below. Where once there had been slave camps, now there were cities. Where once there had been mines, now there were schools and hospitals. "Do you ever regret it?" Captain Lee asked, joining him at the viewport. "Regret what?" "Coming here with just one ship. The odds were impossible. We could have all died for nothing." Tae-min smiled and shook his head. "The odds were never impossible, Sora. We just had to make everyone else believe what we already knew." "What was that?" "That freedom is not about winning or losing. It is about never giving up the fight." Young voices echoed through the ship as children from a dozen different species played together. Their laughter was the sound of hope made real. Outside the windows, space was peaceful. Ships from many worlds moved freely between the stars. The galaxy was not perfect and probably never would be. But it was free, and that had made all the difference. The Indomitable had entered the Vega Tertius system as one damaged ship carrying desperate survivors. It left as the flagship of a new age, proving that sometimes the smallest spark can light the biggest fire. The war was over. Freedom had won. Not through superior weapons or greater numbers, but through the simple human refusal to accept defeat, through the belief that every life had value, through the understanding that true strength comes not from ruling others, but from inspiring them to rule themselves. The lone human warship had not been halted because it carried something more powerful than weapons. It carried hope, and hope once released could never be stopped.